1969, and as I've said in other videos, I wasn't even born yet. I wasn't even thought of. Patrick, were you?
No, my parents were 9 and 11 years old.
Okay. So we are not even thought of yet, but thank God Kentucky wrestling is going on. Now I've got a good friend of mine here today, referee, colleague. I probably talk to him as much during wrestling season through like Facebook and stuff as I do people in my own family. If you would, introduce yourself.
So Patrick McNutt, I'm the assigning secretary for Policy Board Regions 9 and 10, which covers the Lexington greater area for wrestling, but I'll also help out throughout the whole state assigning. There's 4 of us that cover the whole state. I pretty much help everybody east of I-75 and south of Harrison County.
And I know I'm Region 8. Kentucky has 8 high school regions. As of this filming, the way the sport's grown, probably going to have more added in the next little bit. But I'm I am the senior referee for Region 8, and the majority of schools reach out to me, hey, we need referees for this tournament. So I'm always going back and forth with Patrick. He's going back and forth with me, hey, can you come to this school or that school on this day? And a lot of times we can work it out. Sometimes, so many meets going on nowadays, can't always get down this way. But it's good to be able to meet up. The only time we really see each other is if we do state duels together, if we do a region or like a semi-state, or we pass each other at the state tournament. But so I'm glad Patrick was able to come today and do this 1969 video review. And this is some phenomenal footage. This will be, we've done, let me go through it real quick. So far, we've done the 95-pound, 103, 112, and 154-pound state finals. And as you guys saw by the thumbnail, this is the 127-pound state championship finals between Dan Dickerson from Kentucky School for the Blind and Mike Donyan from Flagey out of Louisville. So the 1969 state tournament is held at Louisville Trinity's gym. It's on the Kentucky School for the Blind mat, in case you're wondering. So, Patrick, have you got to watch any of the other 1969 videos so far?
Just the one that you've put up. I've seen them on YouTube, but, so being around the sport since, I guess, 97, 98, this is 20 years prior to I was introduced to wrestling. So
right.
It's amazing to see this history, that there's footage of it out there.
And you kind of led in, perfect segue. I didn't tell him, but there's this, I guess, ESP going on here. Kind of walk us through your wrestling career, high school, and into officiating.
All right, so in middle school, Coach Dingus, who started the program, was our PE teacher. So, of course, we had to have a section over wrestling. And that's kind of was the first taste I had of wrestling. Happened to be my best friend all of growing up. Her grandfather's Coach Regal. So Coach Dingus said, hey, you need to go over and talk to Coach Regal. In 1997-98, there was no middle school wrestling in Kentucky.
Yeah.
It was a varsity-only sport. So 8th grade, I showed up a week into the season and started wrestling. And, there was myself and I believe it was 2 or 3 other 8th graders that wrestled at the time that we went to practice. We would travel with the team, and Coach would try to find a match. Hey, do you have any 8th graders or young guys that can wrestle? And we, I think that 8th grade year I wrestled 5 or 6 matches against the same kid. Every time we went somewhere, he was there, so we wrestled.
And that is, youngsters nowadays, with last 4 years, we've had the Appalachian Wireless Arena at Pikeville. That's been, 2-day middle school and youth. And then, last 3 years, we had Pikeville, and then this past year we were at Corbin, middle school and youth. So, to be able to rent out and have arenas with 10 mats going for middle school and youth, that shows you how much the sport has grown. And it's only going to continue to grow. We know there's other schools that have added wrestling. Maybe they have a team, but they're not competing at the varsity level yet. So in 1969, there was only maybe 20 teams in the entire state. But now you're looking at some regions with more than 20 teams, just about. So you wrestled through school, then you start officiating, correct?
Yep. So senior year, Kentucky wrestling wasn't as far along as it is now. So 2002, the only school we had at the time in the state was Cumberland's that offered wrestling. Gone to a couple of camps, visited a couple of campuses, but nothing really panned out. There wasn't opportunities. But, every home match we had the same official, Tom Hardy from
Tom,
Campbell County. Got to talking to him, talking to Coach Riegel. Hey, if you want to stay involved, you're too young to coach, but you can make money officiating. So that first year after high school, I kind of tagged along with Tom, did some dual meets, let me get some mat experience. I licensed, but really didn't do any big tournaments. Back then, we didn't really have a signer, so it was kind of a free for all. You did the same schedule every year.
Yeah.
But then that second year, I kind of broke in. Bourbon County, the neighboring county, had started a program. First tournament of the year was a varsity tournament. First match I'd ever done, varsity level by myself. Who's in the corner? Rusty Parks and Joe Carr.
Oh, so you got broke in good,
Oh,
huh?
broke in good. First varsity match. Didn't know what I knew then, but I knew that Coach Riegel had a great relationship with him even after wrestling. He said, you always maintain your posture, always maintain, and they'll try to work you. So probably in the second period of that first match, Rusty Parks got a warning. And then we've never had issues again. Every time I see Joe Carr, every time I see Rusty Parks, we talk to each other, we know each other, because we developed a great relationship. But I was fortunate enough as well to officiate and be able to come back and volunteer.
Yep.
I coached Josh Ashbrook, Bo Sanders, Brandon Barnett. I was in the room with them. They were my junior, senior years. They were on the team. Josh was a 103. Brandon was a 103 when I was wrestling. So I got to see those kids grow up through high school and continue wrestling. So it all kind of links together. Eric's father got me into wrestling. Stayed with Coach Riegel, Coach Josh. Like we've said several times, wrestling statewide is one big family.
It is. It really is. And it's kind of the names you just, Rusty Parks and Joe Carr, Woodford back then. I mean, they're still a dynasty, but they were, rolling. They were, and everybody knew, Rusty and Joe, great dudes, especially Coach Carr. We love you, Coach Carr. You can always tell when you're at a wrestling meet because Joe Carr is going to be somewhere, and he just kind of like a video game, just spawns, and there he is. You could see him in Belfry at 9 a.m. on a Saturday, and then he'll magically appear at Christian County at like 11:30 on the same day. Like, what's going on here, Coach? But no. How long have you been officiating?
So this will be going on my 20th year. I carried full schedules up until probably 7 or 8 years ago. I have a son that's 8 now, a daughter that's 6.5. Kind of wanted to spend some weekends with him.
I understand.
Work was taking a lot away. And then a signing role opened up. So I still got to be involved, but I couldn't do 12, 13 hours on a Saturday.
Yeah, those are, and wrestling is a sport, especially if you're watching this and you're like a new team, a new family to the sport, and you're wanting to get into it. There are some days wrestling can be long. There are some days you leave early, you leave, at 5 a.m., 6 a.m. going to a meet, and you don't get home until after midnight sometimes. Right. And some days it's not like that, but some tournaments you go to bigger meets or whatever, like postseason events, it's going to be a little bit longer. But just stick with it, keep the faith, and just know that it's not always a 14, 16-hour day. There's some meets are shorter. The assigning part of it, how long have you been assigning again?
I believe this is my sixth or seventh season coming up now.
And the first regional tournament I got to officiate was 2007 at Henry Clay. It was you, me, Eric Friddle. That's my first time getting to work with Eric, and then a gentleman who moved in here, and he was from Iowa named John Grindstaff. And he was with a government agency. He come in, and I'm not sure exactly where he's at now, but that was our my first postseason. And I remember it plain as day, leaving. Henry Clay High School was on Richmond Road, and that was Kentucky, Florida was playing at night, and game day was in town. And I remember leaving thinking, what's going on? Why is the traffic so bad? But everybody was trying to get down to Rupp, and no circle, you couldn't move. Richmond Road coming out was a standstill just about. So I remember that plain as day, but that was our first regional. And since then, we've got to referee a couple semi-states together. We've got to referee a couple regions together. And how many times have you refereed the state tournament?
I was fortunate enough to do 2 state championships, I believe 2015, 2016. 2015 was a unique year. We had a snowstorm come through that week where state actually got postponed to March.
Yep.
So, we're doing a state tournament during the middle of the week in a pretty much empty horse arena.
I remember that plain as day. The 2016 year, the plan was to do, there's a very specific match that we wanted to get our hands on. The KHSAA doesn't have it in archive, and you have reached out. We'll kind of let you tell that story, but there's a very specific match in 2016 that you got to officiate the finals. Kind of give us that story.
Yeah, so that year, we always, as officials, we draw straws because there's only a couple of us that are going to get to do 2 finals matches. Being my second state tournament, I was fortunate enough I did the 103 and I did the heavyweight. So I started the night and ended the night. But I was fortunate enough that year the heavyweight is Landon Young from Lafayette, who now currently plays for the New Orleans Saints. And for probably 4 or 5 seasons, Landon's match was the last match I officiated. When I stepped into the assigning role, I fully stepped into it and stayed off the mat because I wanted to be able to develop other officials throughout the state and give them opportunities that I'd been given throughout my years. I'm more than happy to officiate a tournament, but I really would rather have somebody new, somebody young, or get somebody that is doing a full schedule to do a postseason tournament.
Yeah.
I still do 1 match or 2 matches a year to stay sharp, stay on the rules, because we've got several good rule changes coming this season as well.
Yeah.
But for the longest time, I kind of hung my hat on, hey, that offensive tackle from UK,
That's right.
that's going to be in the NFL one day. I did his finals match.
And that 2016 state tournament, a lot of other teams' coaches, a lot of other wrestlers were posting on social media selfies with Landon, watching future NFL offensive linemen, a future SEC level offensive lineman. So it's pretty cool that you got to referee Landon's. You reached out to Landon and his parents, correct?
Yep. And just a couple days ago, Landon's fortunate enough to have a newborn child, so I'm sure he's basking in that before the NFL schedule picks up.
Oh yeah.
But they're going to be searching for it, so hopefully we can show that to you guys here before long. But it's unfortunate that we have those couple of years that are missing from the KHSAA.
The 2015 season and the 2016 season, they're not in the archive, and I can't find them. They have to exist somewhere, but we just, as of now, as this filming, we just don't have them. So if you have the 2015 state finals and the 2016 state finals, or if you were just a fan of Landon and you have that, whether it's cell phone, whatever, professional camera, please reach out to me or Patrick so I'll be more happy to come back down and meet with Patrick here in Harrison County, because that match deserves its own. I mean, that's a state champion wrestler, SEC, all SEC offensive lineman, and now current NFL player. I've done some research, and I think he's the only state champion we've had to play in the NFL. I've conversed with some other people with Kentucky wrestling history, and they can't think of anybody. But Landon is our only state champion wrestler that plays currently in the NFL, so it's pretty cool. Patrick, enough of us talking, man. Let's go back get in the DeLorean and go back to 1969. So you guys are seeing what we're seeing. Like I said, we're at Trinity's Gym in Louisville on the Kentucky School for the Blind mat, and this is 127-pound Dan Dickerson from Kentucky School for the Blind versus Mike Donyon from Flagey. Excuse me. Flagey no longer exists. I'm not sure what year they have to do some research on what year they consolidated, or I guess I don't know if it's a private school or whatever, but they're just no longer in existence. But we're going to go back and just review it and just kind of see how different wrestling's changed. Let's go. Now, of course, there is no original audio on this one. 1969 does not have audio. I don't know what the deal is. So first thing I always tell people is the full length. It's not like somebody's wearing like a pair of compression pants. It's like that's the whole uniform.
Yeah. And just starting on the outside of the circle.
On the 10-foot circle.
Amazing.
Apparently that was a thing our good referee friend Andrew Dennison said that even when he wrestled in the 80s, that was something they done up and through then. So
I believe back then there wasn't armbands. You pointed at who scored the points.
And I don't think the touch rule is in effect here.
Yeah, I don't think so.
Because there's not constant contact now. Of course, nowadays, if you have a visually impaired wrestler, you have to maintain constant contact. The School for the Blind wrestlers in the red. Flagey, of course, is in the dark navy. And you'll see this right here in all the videos we've done so far is a lot of dudes on their knees. So the School for the Blind gets a takedown. I see locking hands. Here's trying for a switch. And you don't see a whole lot of offense either from whether you're on top or neutral. You don't see anybody trying any offense. You just see them, locking up and then just hoping somebody falls or something. Like he's trying for like an arm ride or something there, head ride. Out of bounds.
But you still see a switch, which is amazing.
Yeah.
The simple moves are still the most effective moves today in wrestling.
So if you know the families of these gentlemen, please send them this video. Have them reach out. Again, Dan Dickerson, Kentucky School for the Blind, and Mike Donyon from Flagey. Now, Kentucky School for the Blind, I think in 1966, wins the team title.
I think they won 2 or 3.
Yeah.
Okay, well, they won a couple team titles. It's pretty good.
You got a nice Navy ride there
Yep.
going. Wrestling for Coach Regal, who's in the National Hall of Fame, Kentucky Hall of Fame, New Jersey Hall of Fame. One point was the winningest coach in the nation.
I believe that.
Moves that we practice every day, a Granby roll that we just saw there, a Navy ride, a switch. As fancy, as elite as wrestling has gotten over the years, we've seen it on the mat. We've kind of adjusted our officiating
Right.
from the beginning to now. When we first started officiating, like I said, scrambles were just starting. But now, we practice. We kind of got to be patient in a scramble. But still, this classic wrestling, having an arm bar, having to a Navy ride, that wrestling still works today.
Yep.
You see top caliber wrestlers at the college level still use these moves and be successful with them.
And that's another thing. You notice how long they were set right there.
Yeah.
That's something you've seen in not just this weight class, but all the other videos that maybe we haven't on the channel yet, is you're looking at probably 4 or 5 seconds before the referee blows the whistle for a set. So I'm not sure exactly when that rule change took place. Our friend Bill Clarkson, we done video with from Hoptown, 1970 state champion. He said that a couple people in Christian County have some old rule books that he's going to try to send to me where we can kind of see how the rules over time have changed. So that's going to be cool to get our hands on those.
But you still see a great tight waist here is holding a man down.
And I would say these dudes are strong as...
Oh, you can see the build on him. Look at his back here as he's trying to stand up. But, younger kids that are getting into wrestling now, they see these great college kids. They see their local high school kids, and they want to hit these high caliber moves that they've been practicing for years. When, a basic stand up with a leg, you could have put a Turk in there, a tight waist.
Yep.
These basic level wrestling moves are what builds your great foundation to get you to that top caliber level.
If you haven't noticed, the Flagey wrestler has his weight class on the back of a singlet, which is pretty cool.
Used to do it a lot.
It's hard to do it now with, the changes that we have, former Region 6 up in Northern Kentucky, they still have their Region 6 singlets.
Yeah.
Now they're Region 5. We had a weight change last year. Got some more good rule changes coming this year.
Ooh, nice roll.
Evolving the sport to get more people involved. That's one thing when you spoke earlier with some of the guys, Harrison County Wrestling now, I see them at a weigh-in. They have 25, they got 2 or 3 pages of weigh-in sheets.
Yep.
We struggled for a while to get numbers because some of the rules excluded people. People didn't want to cut their hair. People didn't want to shave. This year we're going to introduce the shaving rule.
That's going to be...
Get more people involved. The evolution of girls wrestling in the past couple of years, we're right here in the hotbed of it.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That's what you can go back and watch Josh Ashbrook's video talking about the Phillies wrestling as the girls' athletic teams are called here in Harrison County. The boys' teams are the Thoroughbreds. The girls' teams are the Phillies. And the Phillies wrestling program is probably tops in the state right now.
They were actually honorable mention national ranking this year
Really?
as well. So top 50.
That's right.
team in the
I
nation.
saw
Yeah.
you and Josh shared that.
So hopefully, thankfully the Coaches Association does that sanctioning. And then, we're working towards a KHSAA sanctioning as well.
I would say in the next couple of years we'll have a sanctioned girls.
We're close. Just the numbers. Nationwide, I think, if you look at it, girls wrestling is probably the fastest growing sport out
It
there.
has to be. It has to be.
Yeah, it's amazing. When I first had a daughter 6 years ago, I never thought that there would be a girls wrestling team here.
Mm-hmm.
Thankfully, Coach Ashbrook has a daughter the same age as mine.
Yeah, well,
So,
that helps, right?
It helps. We both have one boy, one girl, so we know we'll hopefully get a wrestler out of one of them and
And-
wrestling together.
On this right here, coaches nowadays, the first thing somebody gets on their knees, the first thing they start yelling, "Get off your knees, get off your knees." But these guys, there we go. We're going into the WWF, into the crowd there. These guys, they pretty much right there, they're staying on their knees. They're living on their knees. So it's weird to see, the basic moves that you see, like the most fundamental moves. There it is. Kentucky score for the Blind wins 4-0.
You look at this match from 1969, and I've seen several of Josh's matches, Brandon's matches, coaching with him, and you see the same moves that were successful. So future wrestlers, current wrestlers, yes, there are great new moves, great new techniques out there, but you see all of these state championship videos on your channel. They all have some of these great moves that they perfected, that have been perfected since 1969. A great switch can win you a state championship.
Absolutely.
A Granby roll, if he could have finished it and got out, he could have got some points off of that and made the match a little bit closer.
And talking about the basic moves, just off the top of my head, George King, he gets his is a double leg to a half. I mean, George King, one of the most dominant runs in state tournament history. Livingston Merritt, his finals, he does his backflip in '97. His was a half. Like going down to the lighter weights, Chris Dunn, I mean, same thing. Switch, sit outs, just basic. Chris could be fancy if he needed to be, but his was just this is what I'm going to do. You're not going to stop me. I'm going to win it. Yeah. 3-time state champion. Just off the top of my head, just people like that. And it's like, listen to your coaches, younger wrestlers. Practice, like what Patrick said, practice the basic maneuvers that you learn as a first week wrestler, and learn to perfect those, add other stuff on as you go, and you're only going to be good for that. I mean, you're seeing it here. There's a reason why that moves like that have stood the test of time, because they're effective. It's why you drill certain things over and over and over and over and over, because they're effective. So, Patrick, we've watched this kind of give us the Reader's Digest of watching that 1969 to like this past year. Give us 2 or 3 takeaways that you've noticed besides the singlets and that kind of stuff, just the wrestling part.
Just wrestling, the involvement of the rules. Even here, I don't believe we have headgear at
We
this
don't.
point in state championship.
Well, let me phrase that. It's optional.
Optional.
It's optional.
Just the evolution of the sport. And, in my time, and since I graduated in 2002, Kentucky wrestling wasn't on the map. You'd go to a national tournament, and there was no Kentucky kids. Now we have kids winning All-Americans, national championships, wrestling at a D1 level. And it's still growing, and that's because of the youth programs and the middle school programs that have taken off. But like you said, we watched here fundamental wrestling in 1969 won a state championship. Fundamental wrestling in 2022 won state championships for kids, and it will continue winning state championships as the fundamental wrestling. A lot of coaches have seen a lot of matches. I was fortunate enough to wrestle for the 2 greats of Harrison County, wrestling with Coach Dingus and Coach Regal. I was fortunate enough for 3 years riding back and forth every day to practice from Richmond with Coach Regal. So the amount of wrestling knowledge that I gained, wrestling stories, and just, situational wrestling, you probably the same way I am on the mat. We see a kid hit a move like, why did you give up this basic half to try to go for something fancy? Now you're on your back.
Exactly.
It sometimes it drives me crazy. You'll see kids that they try to outthink themselves. You have a half, just run it. Lift the elbow at the elbow and put your hand on the back of his head and turn him over and get chest to chest.
Been a couple times I almost want to say, what? Like,
what
no,
are you
stop,
doing?
go back, let's do this over. But, and I don't know, like, I have, after the match has been over with, maybe a tournament or something, just kind of set the youngster down and be like, hey, what were we thinking right there, Bubby? What was going on? And kind of, I'm not saying give them a Werther's original, tell them about the good old days, but, to say, hey, next time you have that half, it'd be a good idea if you kept it. If you just, held on to it, that's what it's for. If you just keep it, you'll more than likely get your near fall count and probably pin the kid. But yeah, I've done that several times. But it's always good to. I'm glad that this year, because it's such a good conversation piece to see where we come from, where we're at now. According to Jack Klein, Kentucky wrestling started in 1962, but there wasn't a state tournament until 64. So if you have 64, 65, 66, any of the 60s or any of the 70s, please send them to me. I have a DVD and VHS converter. We'll convert them, give you a digital copy. We just want the footage. That way we know it's going to be used and we can reach out to more people and be able to tell more stories. Patrick, anything to wrap it up, put a bow on it?
From an assigner standpoint, we talked earlier about the growth of the sport. Unfortunately, our officiating hasn't grown with the sport. Unfortunately, this past season, there was events canceled throughout the sport because we didn't have officials. We had to move. Middle school usually wrestles on Saturday, and we moved a lot of them to Sundays because we didn't have enough officials to cover high school and middle school level. So I ask of you, if you were like me in my situation, you're a graduating senior, going to college this year, staying local, not really sure what to do. Wrestling is good money for a college student. You already know the sport. You already know the basics. Your local association president, myself or Alex or anybody throughout the state, once you get licensed, you have all of our contact information. So, licensing is open now on KHSAA.org under the officials section. You can get licensed once you fill out that information. I have your information and I'll be in contact with you. We do on the mat training. We have we do a middle school tournament here in locally at Scott County where we bring in veteran officials and you get mat time and you get great experience learning because, unfortunately, just like anything else that's short-staffed, it's hard to get training in place, but we do have a program in place where we can get kids trained, get them up and going because, there's some officials that you've seen in previous years that have done state championships for 20-plus years. Alex and myself, we're not getting any younger either. So we need a new generation of officials to continue to grow this great sport that we've been involved in.
And feel free to reach out to us. If you have any questions, reach out to me, reach out to Patrick. I'm going to link the KHSAA officials sign up in the description below where you can check it out. And it is decent money, and as much as the sport's growing, you probably won't have to travel as far as probably what you did 5 years ago. I know I'm on the eastern part of the state. I'm in Johnson County, and unless it's just state duels, region, semi-state, or even the state meet, I can stay busy Saturday and Sunday just on my end of the state. So especially if you're in Lexington, Louisville, Northern Kentucky, western part of the state, Central Kentucky here, you got so many schools popping up with wrestling, you're probably not going to be driving too far, and we just want, more people on the mats. We just need more people, and thank you for adding that in. I really appreciate that. I really thank you for saying that because I think last year in Region 8, there was me, the Horn Twins, Darwin, and Dustin. I think that was the only 5.
We got Joe licensed just in time to do a tournament.
And Joe Sloan was able just to get licensed just at the nick of time. So you've got, 5, 6 guys covering 17, 18 schools, all of them want to have meets. Sometimes the numbers just don't work out.
Right.
But thank you for adding that. I'm glad. Think that's good. I'm glad you added that.
Also, if you are wrestling in college, so this past season we had college students officiate matches. You've done videos with Ryan Moore. He's an official now.
Yeah, Ryan.
Ryan actually came down here and did a tournament with myself. He's a high caliber wrestler, so he knows the sport.
Yep.
So officiating comes pretty easy. We have Hannah Thompson down at Cumberland's that wrestles down there, and she's coming along great. She was a first-year official, did the girls' state championship for us. Using her to recruit on the women's team there.
And that's another thing, too, especially when girls wrestling gets sanctioned.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, we're not exactly sure if it's going to be a winter sport with boys wrestling, if it's going to be a fall or spring sport. But if you have girls wrestling with boys wrestling at the same time, you talk about an urge for officials that we're really going to have to just double our numbers pretty much. So don't let kids' meets be canceled. Sign up. Reach out for help. If you're thinking about it, maybe you've been out for a while, taking a break, get back into it. Welcome you with open arms. And there's enough good officials around the state. We're not going to start naming names. We'll forget somebody. But we got enough refs that are good enough to train people to take you out and help you and make sure that the sport of wrestling just continues to flourish as far as growth of the number of kids, the number of schools, and the number of officials, because it takes a village. Yeah. It does. It takes the old saying, if you're a fan of Kentucky athletics back in the 90s, the Dawharries used to have a saying, from "we've got you covered from Pikeville to Paducah." It actually should be the furthest points away are Fulton County to Phelps. We've got referees from Fulton County to Phelps that can help you become a better official. And the way the sport's growing, Phelps has a team. I think Fulton County has a team. So we've got both ends of the state as far as you can go, from the West Virginia, Kentucky, Virginia border to the Mississippi River covered with wrestling. So we just want the sport to grow. That's all we got from the wrestling room at Harrison County. Thank you to Patrick for taking the trip back to 1969. Got some more Harrison County guys. We just couldn't get here today for whatever reason. Kevin Case is going to be doing the video. We just couldn't get with him. And when we get the video with Roy Gibbs, we'll be meeting with Roy and doing his videos as well. But thank you to everybody, Harrison County, for having me. Josh for bringing me, doing in the room. Eric, Brandon, and Patrick for sitting in with me today. I really appreciate it. You guys are loving these videos. Be sure to tell somebody about the channel. Share them if you remember wrestling somebody or whatever the case is. We just glad that Harrison County opened me with open arms, man. That's all we got. We'll see you guys on the mats.